Hey guys, welcome to Unit 1B, which is going to be over Indus River Valley and ancient China. I love where we start within this unit because there are two cities that are truly fascinating in the Indus River Valley. And what's even more fascinating is we really don't quite know what happened that made everybody leave those amazing cities. And so that's where we're starting out. I'm going to go ahead in this particular video and talk about the first two lessons. So Indus River Valley with Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa being our main focus. And then I'm also going to go ahead and talk about Hinduism. There are 3 videos embedded in the slideshow of these 2 lessons that, again, online learners, I really want you to watch. In addition to this video, one of the things that I, again, am seeing, I've said this before and I'll say it again within your work, and now, especially now that you've taken a test, is y'all aren't watching these and you really aren't going in and looking at the slides. You're using Google to try to float your grade. And I can tell you right now, again, it's not going to work. You've got to pay attention and watch what I am putting out there. Google and the internet is too vast. And so you have to stick with the narrative that is being provided to you from me when it comes to history. So bear that in mind as you're moving forward. Gradebook is now open. I have grades in there. Some of you, again, not doing so hot. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're not putting down the information that I'm giving you. You're putting down the information that Google is giving you. So, word of warning. Okay, so Indus Valley civilizations. All right, so Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro are the two, again, cities we're going to focus on within the Indus River Valley civilization because they were so incredible. So there are 35 to 40,000 people living in each of these cities. To give you a frame of reference, Gatesville has a little over 7,000 people within its city limits. So these cities were more along the lines of like Copper's Cove. That's how many people were living in these cities. And again, this is like 4,000 years ago, guys. And of course, why are they called the Indus River Valley civilizations? Well, just like I told you before and what we are discussing in class, people and cities are going to spring up around those water sources because water is essential to life, not just for human beings, but for animals and for crops. So if you want to have a sustained standard of living, you've got to have a water source. And so again, if you look at a map, all of your major cities, even to this day, many of them are sitting right alongside of a river. And it's because historically speaking, that's where people settled because it was necessary. So Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were discovered archaeologically in the early 1900s. And when they started uncovering the ruins, they found this amazing urban planning evidence. They saw where they had piped in water from the river. So they had like a modern day like water system, water source they were piping in. If you look in that picture of the ruins, not the artist's depiction of what it could have looked like, but the actual ruins, that is known as the Great Bath. And a lot of people, even adults, think that the civilization that created the first public baths and, had running water within their civilizations via the aqueducts and things like that were the Romans. And that's actually not true. This bath outdates Roman baths by a good bit. And so they had garbage chutes. Some of the buildings were 3 stories high and they were like apartment complexes. There was running water and even like toilets within their homes. It's because they had drainage systems that took the waste away and out of the city. It's remarkable. And they had their streets all set up in a grid pattern where they run parallel and perpendicular to one another, just like you see today in cities and urban planning. And so, of course, like, what happened? Why are these ancient ruins not a part of a city that still exists today? Like, why did we have to discover them in the early 1900s? Why aren't they like sitting around as tourist attractions like downtown Rome is today? Well, it's because the people that lived in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa abandoned the cities. And we don't really understand why. It's kind of one of history's mysteries. And part of it is historians believe that Aryan tribes came down from the steppe regions of Central Asia. And steppe. Here's what I found. Ooh, sorry, Siri got to me. The steppe region is just like an elevated grassland area that runs kind of on the southern portion of Russia, northern portion of modern day Kazakhstan. And I know when a lot of you hear the term Aryan, you kind of immediately think like Hitler Youth and blonde hair, blue eyed and Germans. And that's actually a pretty big misconception. Just like there were native tribes here in the New World, like the Mohawk and the Pawnee and the Sioux and the Cherokee, there were tribes all throughout Europe and Central Asia. Okay, that everywhere was very tribal. And the Aryans were as like a group of people that actually had several different tribes within it. I don't want to like get into too much of a complicated conversation here, but Aryan is just simply like a tribal connotation for people that lived in those areas and kind of moved around in those areas. And they did go as far east again as the Indus River Valley. And so when they came, they mixed with the Dravidians, which were the people living in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. And the cultures began to blend. And then they also believed that the river potentially shifted and moved, which is the reason why the people then abandoned those cities and moved as well. But those cities, there's evidence that they were very thriving metropolises of civilization for upwards of like 600 years. So again, they had a pretty good little stint about them, but it's just we don't quite know why they completely abandoned it. We only can guess at it and have theories. So Sanskrit is actually the written language of the early Aryans. And so that's another reason why we really don't know. There wasn't a written language of the Dravidians that were living in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. So we have to kind of piece together an idea of what happened based upon what the Aryans write about after they get there. And they just don't really give us much. So one of the things, again, that I want you to do is watch these videos. They're important to help kind of drive home the things that I'm talking about. This is another really great one. And then moving on to Hindu India. So once the Aryans come in and they blend again, the Dravidians and them assimilate and blend together and kind of move and create what we would consider today like modern day India and even parts of modern day Pakistan. They created an incredible religion called Hinduism. So between 1500 and 400 BC, and remember those numbers are getting smaller because in the BC you're working towards the zero, not away from it. They had this amazing belief system that is so unique and so complicated. Like, I'll be really honest, I am not the foremost understanding person when it comes to Hinduism. Like, I'm asking students in class, is it monotheistic or is it polytheistic? And it's a trick question because really in all reality, it could be considered both. And it has, differing denominations within it today, and people practice it differently. And it's really a pretty incredible religion to dive off into as far as research goes. But the Aryans and again the Dravidians started to settle in together, build Hinduism from the ground up as a faith, and they linked their belief system to their social hierarchy. There's me doing that hand pyramid again. Okay, so they believe, of course, in reincarnation, that your soul is reborn when you die. Now, they don't want to stay in this continual cycle of death and rebirth. The ultimate goal is to eventually become one with their main god, Brahma. And so and how you do that is through how you live your life and how you achieve and do your duty with whatever station of the caste system, which is their hierarchy that you're born into. So, if you do a great job, of honoring the class that you were born into, then, and you've been a good person, then you stand a good chance of one dying being born into a higher caste. And the higher up you go on the chain, on the hierarchy, the closer you get to becoming one with Brahma. That's the reason why in a second, when you look at that pyramid at the very top of it, that group of people are actually even called Brahmins. So, these three things all worked together. Don't think that, reincarnation is separate from karma or dharma. Oh, no. They all go together, and they go together also with the pyramid. Okay. So again, like the caste system is this set of rigid categories in ancient India that determined a person's occupation and economic potential, as well as his or her position in society. And again, it's also linked with the whole like, ooh, if you're a Brahmin, you must have been really amazing in your past lives, like, way to go. If you can't see because my head's blocking it, but if you are at the very bottom there, the like rectangle at the bottom separate of the pyramid, those are your untouchables. So these are like outcasts. They're not even allowed to like walk on the same side of the street as Brahmins. They have to like avert their eyes. I mean, there's all these rules that, again, in these videos that you're going to watch, you can kind of see what the societal expectation is of the lower classes and how they really kind of are considered shunned. Now, it's not as strict and like this anymore. When I'm talking about all of this, this is ancient India. Modern day India doesn't subscribe openly to the caste system in most places. You still have your conservative areas of India that still kind of utilize the caste system, but for the most part, they don't do this anymore. But so you have your Brahmins at the top, as you can see, your priests, your academics, your Kshatriyas. These are your warriors, also your kings, your kind of prince group comes from them. Actually, Siddhartha Gautama, which we're not going to talk about in this particular video, but he becomes the Buddha, and he is an Indian prince of the Kshatriya caste. And he's the one, again, that will become the Buddha, and so and form the basis of Buddhism. A lot of students, there's a misconception there. Y'all think that Buddhism comes from China, and that's actually not correct. It comes from India. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, was raised a Hindu. So anyways, and you have your Vaisyas, which are your merchant class, like your solid middle class are going to be like your Vaisyas, like you're working your way up to the top, like good job. Then your Sudras are going to be like your peasants and servants and commoners. And again, like people looked at where you were in the caste system as evidence of how you acted and how you did your duty or your dharma in a past life. Like, but the fact that you're human is always good, because they also believe that you can be reincarnated as like a bug or like an animal. Now, some animals are considered to be like sacred, and so like it's not a bad thing to get reincarnated as certain animals. But for the most part, like if you're a human, at least you're on your way. You may be an untouchable or a Sudra, but like, hey, nowhere to go but up, right? Maybe. I don't know. If you're a really crappy person, you could turn back into a bug. Who knows? But But that is kind of the social class system in ancient China, or ancient China, excuse me, ancient India. And so again, like we have two videos here that I really want you to watch. This is Hinduism 101. This guy's pretty cool. He's actually a world history teacher. And then this is a neat little clip from a documentary that I'd like you to watch as well. And so I'm going to stop there for this video, and I'll come back in another one later in the week about Buddhism. So hope you guys are doing well and staying dry because it's raining cats and dogs out there. So we will see you guys here in a couple of days. Bye-bye.